Okay, just 1 minute, folks. I just something to start up, and then we'll get started on episode 190. It's gonna happen. It's happening, people. It's happening. It's happening. It's happening. Happening. You know, it didn't have to happen. It didn't always happen. It didn't have to be like this. Oh yeah, that's way better. If I put that there, just straightening up my desktop. It's very disorganized. Sad, actually. It's gonna make me sad. Long makes me long. Or you do long. I long. All right, let's get this started. All right, you guys ready? Let's do this. Hello, and welcome to the Technocrat Live. I'm your host, Matthew Newhall, and this is episode 190. I am so glad to see you guys. I have a pretty quick but interesting, very handcrafted, hand-selected dystopia report. Only the best dystopia, or at least the most accurate dystopia for you. Thanks so much for tuning in. I missed you guys. I almost missed you guys this week, but I was like, I just gotta do this. I like to keep up, and also I like to connect with you guys. And what I mean by connect is I like to interact with you guys in the comments. So don't forget to comment. I want to see you comment. I like it when you comment. It makes me happy when you comment. Comment. I am pumped. I've had a lot of crazy stuff happening in my life, so that's one of the reasons it's a little bit of a short report, but I assure you it is well worth your time. In fact, let me know if you like a longer report with a wider variety of interesting stories, but maybe a couple of stories that aren't as interesting to you, or if you like it more focused, or if the focus has been completely lost. I want to hear from you. Do not tell me. That's an order. You have to. You are being compelled. I have compelled you. Okay, so let's get into it. All right. So don't forget to like, don't forget to love, don't forget to subscribe. If for some bizarre reason you're not subscribed, and comment. I want to interact with you guys. My personal chaos is totally intensified, by the way. I wanted to let you know that. So keep trying. It's probably going to be guestless for the next few weeks. I have a few guests now that are bugging me and they want to be on the show. I probably could have I might have had to skip 1 week, but I think I could have stayed booked the whole time, but I'm just too busy. It's not fair to my guests. Look, I moved the time. Normally it's 8. Today it's 9 because it's just, that's how it has to be. But hey, I'm here. I made it, and so did you. So thank you. And if you're time shifting, I mean you too. It doesn't matter when you make it. It just matters that you make it. All right. Without further ado, let's get into... Oh, wait. Further ado. Hello, Ariella! What's up? Secret bunker in the Bourbon State. So glad you tuned in. Nice to hear from you. Nice to see you in the comments. All right. Without further ado, Dystopia Report. Okay, so first I'm going to cover a little bit of tech. Everything's pretty big news. So Raspberry Pi 5 has been announced. So if you haven't heard this, go check it out. This is actually from RaspberryPi.com, so it couldn't get more official than this, and I see no reason why they would lie. They might lie. That could happen, but I don't think they are. Anyway, so PCIe 2.0 is going to be available on this. So the ability to do extremely fast transfers using PCIe. Also, 5 gigabit per second USB 3. So this is a new feature for Raspberry Pi. It seems like it's all about the bus speeds and increasing the input-output on these devices, which actually makes a lot of sense because if you don't need input-output, the older Pis might do it, but and you're not ever going to get a CPU powerhouse out of these things, which is the point, right? It's supposed to run on whatever battery you can hook up to the thing. So it's not really its purpose. But not only does it have the PCIe 2.0 and the 5 gigabit USB 3s, it has 2 HDMI ports out ports and has 2 camera in ports on the board. So, I mean, you could do like a honkin', and they have 4K ports. So you could do a honkin' 4K display. You know, think about this when you're buying a device and then, like, it, for whatever reason, it doesn't have 4K. In fact, one of the things that this might be useful for, I'm very curious, since it's low latency, it might be possible for this thing to be an HDMI tuner box. In other words, what you might be able to do is you might be able to stream in HDMI from an outside source and stream it back out the other port. I'm not sure. I don't know. They didn't say anything like that on the webpage, but that could be really promising because those doodads are $100 and up. Even the cheapy ones are still $80 to $90 for the cheapy ones with a good reputation. So this would be cheaper, and you'd have software level control over it, which is always awesome. So it's $60 for the 4 gigabyte variant and $80 for the 8 gigabyte variant. So it seems like the main cost in this is the RAM, which actually makes a lot of sense and adds up with RAM costs. Now keep in mind, of course, you can't do any of the AI stuff until you have at least 16 gigs. And it's not really 16 gigs, it's 16 gigs available for the app. Neural networks are big when loaded and need to be loaded to be efficient. So you're not going to be running any kind of machine learning stuff on this. But when it comes to, stream conversion, seems like something that would be perfect. Oh, and I forgot to mention, it also has Bluetooth or low energy, or BLE. So if you don't know what Bluetooth low energy, I ran a story about how graveyards are using BLE chips, and actually there was you could theoretically see all the coffins from space because somebody figured out how to activate and get return signals from low energy Bluetooth chips. It is directly competing, as far as I can tell, or very close to directly competing with RFID chips. I'm not really sure why. Maybe because more things have Bluetooth transmitters. Maybe that's the angle. I should probably read the spec and get more into it and find out why. If you know why Bluetooth low energy is worth it when RFID isn't, let me know in the comments. I'd really like to hear that. But it escapes me at the moment. All right, that's it for the Raspberry Pi story. Let's get on to Chase UK. So that is Chase Manhattan, but the UK variant, I do not believe they did this in... This is not reiterated by Chase in the United States, I don't think. But anyway, Chase UK has decided to ban Bitcoin currency exchange. Now, they call it currency sales, but all I got to say to that is BS, because it's another currency. So that's a currency exchange. They basically are imposing corporate sanctions on the lead cryptocurrency. Now, why would they do this, you might ask? Well, do you want to know the answer that they say, or the answer that's probably the truth? The answer that they say is we're banning currency exchange with Bitcoin because it's too easy to commit fraud and crime with it. Right. Yeah, that's any useful liquid currency, Chase. Yeah, anyone... You talk about talking down to the people, talking down to your audience, the people who think you're listening to you. I mean, anyone who knows anything about money says the more useful it is, knows the more useful it is to criminals, the more useful it is, the better a currency it is, and money, of course, subsequently. What? Anyway, obviously they are not happy with the competition. One of the things that some cryptocurrencies do, and Bitcoin definitely does, is it threatens the banking system, or at least the usury part of the banking system. You cannot do fractional reserve banking in any kind of magnitude with cryptocurrencies. The only way you could do it is if you found a cryptocurrency that was falling out of popularity, and even then you could only do it for a little while, because eventually people would catch wind, because cryptocurrencies are inherently deflationary. You cannot run full-time inflation on something that's inherently deflationary. That's why they don't like it, right? You can't run a usury without inflation, because inflation is really a stealth tax, and the usury has several ways it can work, but one of the ways that the usury can take its cut, its profit, is via the mechanism of what? The mechanism, I don't know, why is the word escaping me? The mechanism of profiteering. That's the word I was looking for. Profiteering simply by burning the money that's sitting in your pocket. Boo. Wow, I'm kind of hyper today. Are you guys hyper? I don't know. I feel kind of energetic. I don't know why. The barometer must be dropping. It just started raining, but I feel like I'm bouncing off the walls. Man, it's not necessarily good. It's just intense. It's good. It's bad. It's happy. It's sad. They call it a roadie. No copyright strike. Okay, I stopped. Anyway. All right. So on to the AI section. That is not true about fraud. That Chase UK didn't claim. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, what they said is not true at all. Yeah, Chase said it, but it's dumb and it's not true. And it's crazy. I mean, you know what the most popular, the most fraudulent currency by that standard is in the world? Paper U.S. dollars. The world is flooded in paper U.S. dollars. If you want to hate a currency, hate paper U.S. dollars, because that is where all the crime takes place. And the U.S. government loves it. They could stop it tomorrow. I mean, there would be an outcry, and they might lose, but they might win. And they want to, but they can't, because one of the things that props up dollar hegemony, or the United States being the lone financial superpower. Let's just forget about that Moody's downgrade for a second. Is the fact that the world is awash in paper dollars, and if you're doing some kind of illicit trade and you need to deal in suitcases of cash, it works. Yeah, Bitcoin's not the problem, people. Bitcoin's the problem if you're mad at spacemen, because that's the only way you could transfer money back and forth between space, right? Unless you want to put your money up in a rocket. But what if it catches fire? Yeah, boo. Anyway, all right. So onward to AI. So AI. A little news from Getty Images, and it's like it wouldn't be news except they kind of threw their gauntlet down on the table and said, "Bring it! You cannot stop us. We are Getty Images. We put our watermark all over stuff, and people use it anyway, and nobody really cares unless you're a professional outfit." They usually don't go after you if you're small enough, but you never know when someone's going to go after you for copyright, and nobody knows that better than Getty Images. So Getty Images has been cranking out some images using AI, and they have a tool where you can crank out an image that you want using AI, using their AI. Well, they're offering something else along with that AI now, the Getty Image custom image AI stuff, and that is a guarantee. What? They're offering a guarantee with their AI-generated images that they will help you fight anyone who contests that copyright of that image belongs to them in court. They're that confident they can demonstrate that their images are copyright complication free, that no one can accuse them of piracy and have it stick. Wow, that is huge. That's like the snake eating its own tail, and not in a bad way. I mean, talk about, that's actually a very useful feature. And so usually copyright suits are based on training sets. So it's not so much, although sometimes there is copyrighted material that will appear as part of an AI image, but the AI, the bulk of the AI image is usually procedurally generated. Like, maybe you took a legit photo of someone and then, you put them on a Photoshop background. Usually they just generate it now. It's just easier. If you have like a celebrity, AI is pretty good at reproducing at least a likeness of them that no one can question. They know it's them, even if it doesn't quite look like them. But yeah, so what really the copyright like elephant in the room is training sets. This just came up recently with ChatGPT, where they openly admitted that they were using an open library project to train their AIs, but the problem is they didn't pay for all that copyrighted work, and they didn't have permission from the authors, and somebody said that in public, and they went, ah, and they ran away. And there have been quite a few claims that you need copyrighted content in order to train AI. Well, that is what Getty Images is contradicting, or at least hoping to set themselves up to get some good case law. I'm not really sure what they're really after, but it's big. This is a big change. So I guess the question is, why are they doing this? Is the images that they're making, are the images that they're making for you on demand, are they really clean roomed? Is it really generated by a neural net that never looked at copyrighted images, or are they just a better pirate? And you can't tell they're a pirate until they're already on your ship. By the way, I don't necessarily like the word pirate in this context, but I love pirates. I just love talking about pirates. So, like with the ones with the eye patches and the peg legs and the funny turns of phrase. Yeah, those pirates. The ones that are affirmation of our spaghetti monster master and his noodly appendage. Anyway. So technologyreview.com if you want to read more. Pretty interesting. And speaking of AI, another AI story. The Black Mirror strike is now over. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, I believe it was Everybody Hates Joan was the episode of Black Mirror. I might have gotten the name wrong. Betty, Darlene, I think it was Joan. Anyway, it was a Everybody Hates blah, blah, blah episode of Black Mirror where they depicted a universe where people were watching an AI-generated show about somebody's real life that they inadvertently signed away when they clicked through some EULA. And the real horror for the people in Hollywood was the realization that these complicated contracts that they signed are probably signing their rights away on a regular basis because movie franchises like to keep going. Because it's a surer bet. You're more likely to get your money back if it's a long-running series, episode after episode after episode, right? Everybody wants to connect to the soap opera model. Nobody wants to do a one and done. So, and the result of that is you may have computer-generated actors and actors' voices and writing that is not from the original source. And the writers do not like that, and the actors do not like that. And supposedly the actors struck along with the writers in sympathy, but the writers definitely struck out and struck. And I remember that one of the things that was interesting to them, was really compelling to them, and it was originally their demand, and it was ignored, and then eventually it was picked up, was the idea that if things are partially AI generated, but a writer was signed on to the project, that they get paid in full, that they don't get docked based on the amount that was used for the AI. Once you're signed up, you're made, essentially, and you have to be outright fired, or you can take credit for the AI work that's used in conjunction with your work. So assume that a similar structured phrasing was done for the actors. It was actually a little hard to find very fluffy pieces out there on this. A little hard to find what the interpretation of the language without having to read the damn contract changes. I'm sure they're public someplace. I just didn't have time to look it up. Anyway, it's big news. So go check it out. The deal has been reached. The strike is over. Don't take my word for it and cross a picket line. Except Star Wars. Is the Star Wars wing of Disney? Well, last week I talked about the CGI crew from the Star Wars movies actually were unionizing. So I don't know if that's complete and if that has anything to do with this. As far as I know, the entire strike is over. But if it's except Star Wars and I'm wrong about that, let me know in the comments. All right, so that's it for the Black Mirror strike. That's all she wrote. On to science. Oh, here we go. But in Star Wars, they use a computer-generated character, the Emperor General. He is an English actor. Yes. Well, it's not just that. Also, don't forget, Princess Leia in Rogue One was completely computer-generated. And, yeah, I mean, there's going to be more and more and more of that. They're already de-aging actors. So far, it seems like companies are using a conjunction of technologies of an actual live actor along with technologies. They'll use their voice, they'll use their face with the dots of the green screen and try to de-age their face or whatnot. Yeah, eventually they're not going to need to do that at all, and no one's going to know the difference. And that was the point of that Black Mirror episode, and boy, was it juicy. I mean, it's literally an app. That's why I love that show. That show is so poignant that an episode of that show caused an actor's strike. I'm convinced that's what did it. When they saw Salma Hayek up there, fake complaining, fake Salma Hayek, well, real Salma Hayek playing fake Salma Hayek, complaining that her contract was bad because it was like a Inception thing where it just kept going in. I'm not going to spoil this more. But, yeah, go check it out. I mean, spoiler rule, it's been like it's been as old as the strike. It was like 100-something days. Yeah. All right. So that is it for AI. Let's get into science. All right. So actually, this is a computer science story. I could have easily put this in the tech, but I think this is an interesting topic for computer science. I still haven't heard what kind of mug I should get, people. I want a Viking-themed mug, but if you can argue me out of it, please, I want to know. My Viking mug sadly died. I am very unhappy about that. But anyway, so science. So some AI language models apparently are better at building on-the-fly compression than some of the popular compression modules. So I think this is a test with specific kinds of compression. And in this case, this was Ping and Flack that were just schooled by a neural net, just generating a compression for whatever data was handy on the fly. And this is interesting for two reasons. The smaller reason that a lot of the nerds are going to get caught up on, and then the bigger reason, which is the larger science and philosophical reason. Science is philosophy. Nobody wants to admit it, but your more rigorous version of science. Get a Ragnar. Yeah, that's not a bad idea. I actually, how about a Ragnarok mug? Anyway, yeah, okay. So it's kind of interesting. Why are modern neural nets better at compressing than the best algorithms that computer science can come up with? Is it that the algorithms are that far along? Maybe. This was DeepMind from IBM that did this in this paper. But actually, another question comes to mind: is intelligence inherently compressing data anyway? In other words, human intelligence, any intelligence, AI, human, an alien species, an advanced example of one of the smarter animals on Earth that isn't human. Are they really compressing data? And what does that mean? Well, it would certainly explain vapor lock on more complex topics. It would be an interesting question, and it might help to solve some of the puzzles of the mind. It's very difficult to, while you can train people to talk to a neural interface in your mind, you can't necessarily just read somebody's mind with a neural interface. It has to be trained. In other words, you have to reprogram your neurons that are adjacent to it to do the thing, right? It isn't just like, oh, I know what those neurons do. But maybe one of the reasons why is because the brain is involved in some sort of compression, even though it's a weird, organic, accidentally found compression. Which actually, I like that too, because could be another thing that dovetails with SIVGene. SIVGene is my novel scientific theory that psychopaths predated what we think of as normal or empathic humans, and that we actually evolved from them because. It makes sense because we have all their behaviors, but they don't have all ours. And there's a whole bunch of things that come along with that, in a whole bunch of things that are explained in human behavior, and this could possibly be one of them. In other words, it might explain the reason that you need your metamind, the metamind being the relational database adjacent to your normal data access, comprised of emotional memories about different events. That might be a way to index compressed data in some cases. So it might not be that we just choose to access our logical or factual data in our minds, and then maybe also compare it with its emotional component to create an imaginary scenario or to do something creative. Or to get a risk management analysis, which is its real purpose. But it may be that what's really happening is it's indexing all that compressed stuff. I mean, apparently intelligence can do this naturally. Interesting. Yeah. Anyway, so let me know what you think about that. I just thought it was kind of a kind of had a cool take on this, and it's also interesting on its own merits. So very interesting. The usual suspects for science journals. In this case, it was arxiv.org, but there's other. That's just where I picked the journal up. There's other places you can get it. Okay, and now for the final story. This one's from Kyoto University in Japan. As if you didn't need to know that. I have a question for you. Do you think sharks are cute? I want to know. Are you one of those people that thinks sharks are cute? I might have some good news for you if you think sharks are cute. Well, if you didn't know this, but if you wanted to be one, you got to be able to regrow your teeth, because sharks constantly go through sets of teeth. And so there are some animals that are capable of regrowing their teeth, but for some reason, some others can't, including human beings, which is very disappointing to us and our dentists. Well, maybe now you can. Check this out. So this is, it seems like that the USAG antibody, its purpose is USAG1 antibody. So there's a gene that makes in your body that makes the USAG1 antibody, and that antibody naturally suppresses the BMP, or bone morphogenic protein, and that prevents your teeth from regrowing, or you from growing new teeth. So it seems like, at least in the case of mice, they have the capability, and some other animals. They mentioned clinical trials, so I think they're actually thinking about trying this with human beings. I believe that that's the case. The articles were not great, and it was detailed, the journal entries, but it looks like suppressing the BMP causes teeth that have been damaged to regrow in animals, and very possibly in humans, because humanized mice have quite a lot in common with us genetically. Wow, holy cow. I mean, can you imagine being able to regrow your teeth if they get damaged? What do you think about the coordinated efforts of the media, big tech, and governments working together to take down Russell Brand? Okay, so I actually have a thought on this. I just wanted to, I wasn't going to bring it up because there hasn't been a specific event with it, although it certainly has been a large grouping of events. I just wanted to say that the problem with judging people in the media specifically is there is no recourse. Like, just because somebody is publicly shamed and then canceled, if they're exonerated later, there's usually no path to redemption for them. And one of the reasons why is because the digitalized witch hunt, or cancel culture, as it's better known as, is its goal is really not justice. It's people craving justice that energy taps into, but it is not justice. And specifically, what I mean by that is, justice is redemptive. It's a human right, and people have a right to have some expectation that the society will institutionalize, or at least approximate, fairness and empathy at an institutional level. There are animal workalikes, but they're not as good. But the problem with going after somebody and trying to cancel them like this is, and for all those people supporting anything like this, not just Russell Brand, but anyone, is the problem is that corporate cancel culture is corporate culture. So you're really just doing the bidding of some corporation, which is perfectly fine. I mean, not necessarily always ethical, but at least understandable if you're getting paid or compensated somehow. But in this case, all the people who are publicly supporting attacking him are not getting paid. So they're kind of being the ones that sin for nothing, because they're just adhering to some corporate culture that they don't belong to. But likewise, the attacks are not totally sticking yet. They do not seem to have the traction to take him down so far. And the attacks are largely originating from paid people working from big media companies. And this is the problem with getting opinions or philosophical foundations from corporate culture, because it comes with stuff like cancel culture, where it's really just about, hey, how can we be effective and use marketing for evil? And because that's really what it is, right? When you're trying to cancel someone, you're just using marketing for evil. And now I'm not saying he's not guilty, but let the guy get convicted first, right? And certainly don't string them up in the public square. It looks like they're baseless accusations. So very interesting. Apparently they have gone after Rumble and demanded, both governments and corporations in tandem have gone into Rumble and demanded they take him down. And Rumble said he hasn't broken any laws. No, he's fine. He's just stating his opinions. And I tend to agree. Just because someone has wrong society, assuming he has, we don't even know, doesn't mean they don't have any rights. They still do. That's how rights work. That's why they're rights, right? Unless you don't believe in rights. Now, that's something you shouldn't admit to in public. Anyway, enough about that, but I just wanted to, it's a good question, and I'm glad I got a chance to say something about it, because a lot of people think that they're on some kind of moral high ground when they're canceling people. YouTube demonetized him. He was making $60,000 per month from YouTube. Yeah, well, I mean, that's how YouTube operates. I'm not surprised. And this is one of the reasons that Rumble has become so popular, directly as a result of YouTubians, whether they're paid or unpaid YouTubians, following the craft of the tube. And of course, I'm on YouTube, but I'm also on Odyssey, because I'm just waiting for them to get mad that I said something that makes them sad and hurts their feels. I'm sorry, companies don't have feels. If they say anything that's about them getting their feels hurt, they're lying, right? Companies are inherently psychopathic. Anyway, so back to teeth. So it looks like we have the ability to grow human teeth. Clinical trials are starting. And I'm really excited about this. If you want to know more, eurekalert.org. I actually had better luck at globalnews.canada for more detailed explanations. But this is huge. I mean, we might be able to grow back broken and destroyed teeth really soon. So, and it looks like we always had the ability, but there was a hormone suppressing it. And we may be able to suppress the hormone that suppresses the hormone, if you know what I mean. So the tooth growth promotion hormone is being suppressed by our own immune systems, and if we can temporarily shut that off, we can regrow a set of teeth. But big tech and the government work together. Well, look. Also, that's another thing too, is that whenever you have big tech and government, they are most definitely working together. This is not a secret. This is just underreported, but it's truth and no one denies it. I mean, and the way you know that is because every Web 2 company has offices for not only from the United States, multiple intelligence agencies, but intelligence agencies from governments all over the world, and sometimes in the building, sometimes right up the hall from either cybersecurity or the ones who can commit actions, or right up the hall from the executives. They literally give them rooms in the same building because it's just more convenient to have meetings. I mean, come on. Really? That's your team. I'm not saying government's always bad, and I'm not saying government's always wrong. But when it comes to canceling someone because you don't like their opinions, because it hurt your feels, that whole sentence is lies. All right. Anyway, so enough about Shark Teeth and enough about cancel culture. Thank you so much for tuning into the Technocrat Live tonight. That's it for the Dystopia Report. I'm so glad to see you guys. I'm so glad I got to do a show. And with luck, I'll be back next week. If for some reason I take a week or two off, please do not be hurt. I want to be here so bad. and it is frustrating the heck out of me that I cannot have guests on here. I was just getting some momentum with the guests, and then I had to stop for personal chaos. But I'll be back. All right, so please like, love, share. If you want to comment after the fact, please don't be afraid to. I want you to comment, and I'll make sure to read your. I read all the comments. Sometimes I don't like comments I don't understand. So the comments that are done offline and time shifting, if I don't get what you meant, if you comment and I don't get it, try to clarify. Maybe I'll get it the next time. Okay, so thank you so much. Choose wisely. Choose to share. Good night, everyone. Thank you. Thank you.